in Al-Anon, I have been very privileged to meet many, many different people. And the privilege has included people who are accepting. It has included people who are loving. And it has included people who do a lot of service. The amazing thing about our keynote speaker tonight is that she is one person who is all of these three things. When I met Mirta, if I am correct, it was through my work on the assembly. I know her as someone who was very involved, although I did not know this personally, in this fellowship in New York. What I did begin to realize personally was that the more I was around her, the more I enjoyed being around her, and the more I anticipated being around her when I knew she would be there. She is always she is a sunshine, quite honestly. And again, she is a person who, in my experience, in a way has never said no to this fellowship. And what I mean by that is she's one of the few people who I have heard both speak of inclusion in this program, stretching it as far as possible. She's one of the few people I've heard talk about including meetings for the LGBTI community, for persons of racial, religious, and cultural ethnicity, meetings of those type. She also, I watched her attend. It is my understanding she reached out to every meeting in the state of New Jersey. She went to, as I understand it, every meeting in the state of New Jersey. And when the assembly, and essentially led by Mirta, as I understand it, has been trying to get our districts together, I saw her come to the meetings I went to and address these meetings. So again, it is certainly my enormous privilege to introduce a person who I have watched be accepting, be loving, and be what we also really need in this fellowship, a beacon of service. Ladies and gentlemen, Mirta S.
I am shamed, and I am going to cry, and that is not a menopause. My goodness, so many things in Al-Anon. Hi. Good evening, dear members of AA, dear members of Alateen, and dear members of Al-Anon. I am Mirta, and I am a very grateful member of the Al-Anon Wild World Fellowship. We are a fellowship that we speak around 30 languages. And we are in around 115 countries. That is wonderful, right? And sometimes we think that my group is the only one in the whole wide world. And the best one. My home group is in Essex Fells, New Jersey. I am your neighbor for the last 3 years, and I am very happy to be in the Garden States. You know, I love it. We have all flowers over here. And I am going to read, just in case, tradition number 3, because I didn't welcome if it's any newcomer today. And tradition 3 say the relative of alcoholics, when gathered together for mutual aid, may call themselves an Al-Anon family group, provided that, where I am, provided that as a group they have no other affiliation. The only requirement for membership is that there be a problem of alcoholism in a relative or a friend. And I am going to read something from this book, and this is a free commercial. This is the latest book that we have. And, I couldn't go to the international convention in Pittsburgh because I was in another place that I am going to let you know later. But look how it's God. I was not over there. And last week I received a package in my home and was from my sponsor. And my sponsor bought the book for me, at the convention. And look, I am so happy that I have it. I say, oh, she's so sweet. But now, I am thinking that she thinks that I need this book. That is the reason that she bought it. Well, she knows me better than I am. And it says in page 268, just in case for that newcomer that doesn't know what we do in our meetings, say, applying the steps, traditions, and concepts to my life has given me the tools to rebuild myself brick by brick, rather than demolish myself completely, as I was sometimes tempted to do. I took one old brick out of myself at a time and replaced it with a completely new one, and I built a new me. And that is the reason that I am here with you today. I want to thank you, the JAL-CON committee, for giving me the opportunity to carry this message, my experience, strength, and hope, of course, with a broken English. And I am going to talk about my family, which I have permission to do it. And I need to be very careful because my daughter is here today. And sometimes she tells to my husband what I said in the meetings, But, thank God she said good things. Oh, Mom was so nice. And Mom was so sweet. And Mom is like that. And I know that when she starts with that song, it's because she's going to ask me for something. She loves how I cook. And it's better, because if not, I don't cook anymore. And I am going to talk about God as my higher power, not as a religious act. And I am not going to talk about Al-Anon as a whole, because remember, I am not conference-approved literature. I am Mirta. And what I am going to tell you and share with you is the little bit that I learned. You told me a lot, but my brain is very small, and I am a very slow learner. I am going to start that I was born in Argentina. Did you realize that I have a broken English? I am not going to tell you when, because you told me and you told me that I have to keep my anonymity. And I remember until today that my mother always fought with my father because when I was born, he was not with her. And according to my father and according to my family, my father never drank. But he was so happy when I was born that he went to drink. And he drank and drank and got drunk. And my mother never forgave my father that he was drinking. And as a result of that, I was growing up with, I was feeling guilty that I was born. Because in my mind I said, if I was not born, my parents never fight. And I was growing up with a lot of resentment to my mother because I was physically and verbally abused. I was growing up with a lot of resentment to my mother. And I was growing up with a lot of isolation. I remember that my mother used to tell me, you talk when the chickens make pee. That is a very common language in Argentina. And, every weekend we went to my uncle's house that was at the outskirts of the city, around 30 miles from the city. And in those days, they were having houses, and they have a lot of chicken. In every house, they have chicken. And I remember that I followed the chicken because the chicken went to other houses. They never stay where, how is the house where the chicken live? Okay, that one. You see, I have to keep coming back. And I followed them to see when the chickens may pee. Let me tell you, I never saw them make pee. I saw them make another things. And I went to my grandmother and I say, Grandma, when the chicken make pee? And she told me never. And as a child, we didn't have the right to talk or to say just our feelings. My family loves to cook. And always, including myself, until that I came to Al-Anon, we were cooking with alcohol. I remember that we used to make spaghetti. I don't know if it's any Italian people over here. Spaghetti, the red sauce, you have to put a lot of red wine. When you make a turkey, you have to put a lot of whiskey or scotch or whatever you have in your house. And we used to make drunk chicken, drunk cake, drunk fruit salad. And we didn't have, my family didn't have too much money. Not too much. We didn't have money. And we didn't know that we have to eat dessert. And you know how was our dessert? To have bread that was from 3 or 4 days old, and we dunk in the red wine. That was our dessert. When we have a cold, we have to drink hot milk with scotch or whiskey, according to the money that we have. If we have a stomachache, alcohol pads. Everything was around alcohol. And my family knew a lot about alcohol. They know how to apply it. But my family didn't know anything about the alcohol disease. 3 of my uncles died because of the disease. And my mother passed away 3 years ago, and she was drinking alcohol with pills. Both of my father, they love to drink too much. Alcoholism is a terrible disease. Not only affects the person who drinks the alcohol, but also affects the whole family. I remember that we have a dog. When my husband came home, the dog went under the bed because he is afraid of my husband. And also in Argentina, we have a dog that he loves to drink red wine. Only red wine. And he drank the wine. He went for a siesta later. And when I was around 18, 19 years old, I don't remember exactly the day, I met a man who is my husband today, for the grace of God. And, you know, in Argentina, the man likes tall woman, skinny, blonde, and blue eyes. And I was short, fat, brown. Now I am blonde. You know why. And I had to cover my white hair. And, you know, the man didn't come to me. And he was my first love. And when I saw him, and he asked me to come home to visit me in my house, I say, oh my God, I did it. I got a man, finally. Because in those days I was 19, 18, 20 years old. And if you don't get married in those days when you are 20, goodbye, Charlie. They call you different words that I don't like to use it tonight. And, okay, I saw him. I say, this is going to be mine. And my mother was so nice, thank God. She prepared food, and she did this, and she did that. And one day she told me, Mirta, be careful with him. And I say, why? And she said, well, because he's a drunk. And I say, who cares? One more drunk in the family. Everybody loves to drink in my family. Who cares? And he kept coming back, you know, and I was very happy. But he didn't ask me for anything. I say, something is wrong over here. And one day, you know, I have the courage to ask him if he loves me. And I say, do you love me? And he say, and, you know, I say, who cares? I love him. I have so much love. And my second question was, do you want to marry me? And he said, And we got married. And after 1 year that we got married, I said, do you want to start a family? He said, 9 months later, we have our beautiful daughter. And, I remember our first anniversary was in Brooklyn. Diane, you. That was our first home since that we came from Argentina. We spent over there living in Brooklyn, and our daughter was born in Brooklyn too. And our first anniversary, I say, I have to do something very special for the two of us. We were alone in this country. And that I have a beautiful creation. In those days, I put flowers on the table and candles, and I prepare a beautiful supper. Of course, all the food that he loves, not the food that I like. And I was dressing in black, because, in those days, black was good and sexy. Did you know that? Do you remember, right? Oh, good. And, and I was ready. You understand me, right? I don't want to go into details at this time. It's only 45 minutes. And what happened was that he came from work, and he saw the arrangements and everything. And he saw me in black, and he said, who died? And, was not too funny for me. Our relationship was declining. And I started going to different doctors. I went to psychologists, I went to sexologists, I went to psychiatric. Oh my God. I went to so many doctors. And let me tell you, I never hide anything. I told all the doctors everything that happened in my home. And finally, one of the doctors asked me to go to a psychiatric with my husband. And I went home and I told Osvaldo, and I say his name because he gave me permission to do it. Say, Osvaldo, the doctor told me that we have to go to a psychiatric. And he said, and we went to a psychiatric, different psychiatrics, for around 12 years. And the psychiatric gave pills to my husband for his nerves, for his depression, for his insomnia. And 2 years before that I came to Al-Anon, I was taking the same pills that he was taking. And I didn't drink. I had almost the same disease that he had. Why the doctor gave me pills for depression? Because 2 years before that I came to Al-Anon, I didn't want to live anymore. And I went to the public library, and I looked for all the books about how I can kill myself. But don't worry, and I am alive. Yeah, because that is part of the depression. That I didn't care for anything in life. And, I didn't like any methods, how I can kill myself. And for the grace of God, the doctor gave me pills for depression. When my daughter was 15 years old, she told me that she wants to leave the house because she couldn't stand anymore our fights. And I was thinking, what is more important in my life? It's my daughter or it's my husband? And in those days, we started going to another counselor. And look how is our higher power. The new counselor that we went, she was an AA member. And the first time we went, and I started talking, of course, because for him, he didn't have any problem. I had the problem. And I started talking, and after 10 minutes, the counselor stopped me, and she said, tell to Osvaldo, you need to go to AA. And Mirta, and my husband say, and Mirta, you need to go to Al-Anon. And I say, I am not going because I am almost perfect. And believe me that I believe it. Because I pay the bills, and I did the cooking, and I did the cleaning. And when I clean, I clean. And when I cook, I cook. I cook for the whole family and for my neighbors. And I was a perfect mother. Because when my daughter came from school, I was waiting for her with her milk and her cookies, and I baked them, I burned them, but who cares? But I did it. And I was the best mother. Why? Because when she came from school, I started telling her everything that her father did to me. And I love the traditions. Why I love the traditions? Because we have tradition 12 that we say that we need to keep anonymity. And resentment make me tell her so many things that I never had to tell her. This tradition today, when we are talking about him, sometimes we laugh. Today, because of Al-Anon, we don't talk with that kind of resentment anymore. But the harm that I did to my daughter was that I taught her how to resent her father. I didn't know, but I passed my resentment to her. And I have to work very hard, to be in that road of recovery. When we went to the counselor, and she told me, Mirta, after that I told all that stuff, he said, well, but Mirta, that there is a Spanish group in the Lower East Side in Manhattan. And in the same building, it is an AA group and an Al-Anon group. And let me tell you, I love that. Because I went with my husband, and I control my husband if he went to AA or not. And I say, well, I like that. And she said, well, and there are coffee and cookies. And I love coffee and cookies. And November 3rd, 1985, was our first meeting. And our first meeting was my road of recovery. And I have a page over here that I love. I don't know, do you read this book? It's red. And did you realize, right? And when I look at this book, I say, this is our blood. Because over here are our children. And the page is 122, and it says, most of my life before Aladdin, I traveled many roads. Each one seemed to lead in a different direction. I was used to doing things my way, and if a route looked good to me, I take it without mapping it out or checking conditions. I found the roads confusing and rough, long and not very pleasant. Through Aladdin and with the help of the people in the program, I learned to map out my road before I start each day. I check the road's condition and follow directions. And I try to be more aware of the obstacles I might meet along the way. It is a lot easier to travel now, and my mind is free to enjoy everything that passes my way. At the end, I am going to read the things to think about. And here started my recovery. My recovery started with the first step, first tradition, and first concept of service. The 3C. I cannot control it. I cannot cure it. And that is what I did in my past. I control alcohol. I control all the drinks that my husband had. And at the end of that controlling was a fight, because his math was not my math. Always I was wrong. I didn't know how to adapt. And first step tell me that I do not have any power over this disease. But also these steps tell me that I don't have to be paralyzed over the disease. These steps tell me that I cannot do it alone, that I need to have a sponsor. And I remember, because I went for a long time to counselor, and my counselor, I think that she got tired of me, and she told me, why don't you get a sponsor? And I said, and how much I have to pay for a sponsor? And she said, it's free. And I love that idea. Because, listen, in those days, I paid $45. And I was negotiating with her. $45 every week. I say, no, that is too much. And the sponsor is free. Well, I went and I made my decision to get a sponsor at the next meeting. And I went to my home group. And I was looking at everybody. And I say, she's too tall. And I don't like how she dresses. And remember that I was perfect. And I went back to her and I said, it's a problem. And she answered me, well, if you don't like anybody in your home group, go to another group. Or if you don't find in another group, go to another state. She didn't give me any chance. was not easy for me to find a sponsor when I thought that I knew everything and I knew better. Finally, I got my sponsor, and for the grace of God, she's my sponsor. Until today, thank God bless her. And that is part of the step one. I cannot do it alone. I need to keep coming to the meetings. I need to give service. In that way, I can detach from the disease. I remember that I was fighting with this first step. And because of service, when I was 2 months old in Al-Anon, I started the New York Intergroup. And you don't have any idea how much gratitude I have to WSO. Because they guided me to give service. In those days, in the Spanish groups, we didn't have sponsors. We didn't talk about traditions. The only tradition that we talked was about the 7, that we passed the basket. But we didn't know how to do with that basket. And we didn't have also too many books that we can read. And for the grace of God, today, not today, is I think, and I don't, maybe I am going to say a mistake, but I think that for the last 6 or 10 years, we don't have to ask anymore to WSO for the translation of the book. When we have, like this book, this is a free commercial, when we have, suppose, this new book, maybe next year, we are going to have translated into Spanish as well as French. And that is something that I have to give thanks to my higher power and to WSO that now they are translating all our books. And that is part of tradition 1. Tradition 1 is to have unity. And what is unity? I don't have to agree with you, but I can be your friend. And that is the beauty, that sometimes we can have disagreements, but I love you how you are. And that is the cement that keeps us together. As well as concept 1. When we read the first concept, it talks over there about the 87 groups that we have a long time ago. And after a few years, from 87, we went to 1,500 groups. Concept 1 is to carry the message, is to give what they gave to me. And, as I said before, I was studying the steps with my sponsor, and we started with step 2. And I didn't believe in God because God didn't do what I was asking him. Because every day we have around 10 to 15 fights with my husband. And we were working together. Always we work together. And after the big fight, I went to church. And I went to church, and I remember that I had $1. I put $1 in the basket, and I light a candle. and I pray. And what happened that I say, why God did not answer my prayers? And I went back to church, I put $2. And I went back to church and I put $3. I say, maybe God is going to think that I am too stingy. And when I was talking about the second step with my sponsor, talks about a loving God. What's a loving God if he's drinking every time more and more and more? And my sponsor told me, just believe. You don't have to believe in your husband, but you can start believing in yourself. And took me time to be in this road of hope. Because the second step is what gave me the hope to keep coming back. And I have to be honest with you, and I didn't want to keep coming back. I say, this is my last meeting. But it was my higher power that pushed me. And I was sitting in front of one of the members that I didn't like in my meeting, that I didn't like how she talked, because she said, I am happy that I was married with an alcoholic. And I didn't like to hear that kind of things. And that is the hope. And hope guided me to have faith in me, to have faith in my meetings and in the people that came in my way. I don't know if that's happened to you, that sometimes you go to the meeting and they are talking about what is going on in your home. And I say, she listened. She was behind the door. This program has something that is in our soul. Is from my soul to my higher power. And that is the cement that why we are here together. The second tradition, talks about almost the same thing, like the second step, to have a loving God. And I love the knowledge-based decision-making, that when we are going to make a decision, we need to have knowledge of what we are going to vote. And to delegate the second concept. I started using this concept in my home. When I cook, my husband does the dishes. And when he makes the chicken, I do the dishes. And that is very good. I am going to tell you something now about my resentment. And that is part of the fourth step. I remember that I used to go to different churches. I am Catholic, and I respect every tradition, every religion. But I used to go to a synagogue because I want to change religion. And I went in New York. In every block, you have 2 churches. And I went to all of them in my neighborhood. And all the spiritual leaders told me the same thing. That they said, you suffer from resentment. What's new? And But what I didn't know, and according to them, and I respect them, they said that resentment is a sin. And I came to Al-Anon, and you told me that resentment is a defect of character. And to say the truth, I don't know what it is. I don't want to be in controversy. But for me, resentment was a cancer in my soul. Resentment took me to the hospital so many times with anxiety attacks. I suffer from anxiety attacks. But look, the road of recovery. Since that I am in Al-Anon, I didn't take any more pills, and I didn't go to the hospital anymore for an anxiety attack. Al-Anon works. Another thing that I did with the steps is that I learned to drive. My fear, step 6. I didn't know how to drive. And when I was around 45, 48, something like that, I say, I am going to start to drive. Well, I went to school, and I didn't have any problem with my written test. 1, 2, 3, and I passed it. But I have problem with the driven test. And I went to Brooklyn, and I went to Queens, and I went to Staten Island, and I went to so many places. But one day I got my license. I don't know why, and I don't know how, but I think that the instructor was very sorry about me. I think that he got tired of looking at me. And I got my license. You know, sometimes I drive very slow. And let me tell you, I never saw so many fingers in my life. Especially when I go to New York. But I say, easy does it. And also, when somebody invites me to some place, they say, and how long takes me? And they say 3 hours, and maybe it's 1 hour, because they know that I am always late. But now I am getting better. But you see, there are all little things that the program gives to us. I remember, look how crazy I was. And I was in Al-Anon, that I want to give service. And I told you that when I came to Al-Anon, I didn't speak English. And Diane knows that I didn't speak English. And the few words that I spoke, they didn't understand. Well, today is the same, but I don't care. But that is the unity, And you know that I went to the assembly meetings. And I went with my daughter because she translates for me. And I saw somebody talk about the assembly meetings before Diane was saying that. And, I went to the assembly meetings in New York, and they fought so much that I say, but I don't know why they are fighting. And my daughter, of course, translate for me everything that was, interest. And the fight is not interest. And I asked her, Mom, she said, don't pay any attention to that. And you know that I didn't care for what she translated me, but I care because why they are fighting. If we are talking in the meetings about serenity prayer, and we are talking that we have to accept everybody, why do we fight at the assembly meetings? And I say, well, I cannot handle anymore this situation. And I went to school. And between going to school and going to the assembly meeting, that is the language that I learned, my second language. But what happened also, I told my sponsor all the time, you know, my mother used to call me a donkey because I went to school, but I never passed the grades. Of course, I passed the grades, but I passed the grades because my mother gave a lot of gifts to the teachers. You know, I was not a good student. And all the time I was telling that my mother was calling me a donkey. And my sponsor said, why don't you stop with that music and go to school? And I went to school. And I did my GD by mail. Can you believe it? This country is beautiful. And I have my GD. I didn't speak English, but I have my GD because I was looking at the dictionary and I was asking my daughter. And I went to Boricua College, that is a bilingual college. And over there, I tried to learn. And after that, I went to Fordham University. I don't know how I did it, and don't ask me. I didn't finish my term over there, but I have, I think, 20 credits, something like that. And why I did it for several reasons, because Al-Anon told me, you need to be ready. And I didn't know if I was going to divorce my husband or not, but I say, at least I can be a teacher. And I did for another reason. I did it for my mother. When I went to the graduation, because I went to a graduation, my daughter and my husband went over there. Oh my God, I was so excited. When I went home, I called my mother and said, Mom, you know what's happened? And she answered me, you hit the lotto. I say, no, Mom. Today is my graduation. And she answered me, well, now it's too late. Why you need it? You are too old. But Al-Anon gave me the grace to tell her, you're right, Mommy. But you know, you always dream that I have a title. And I want to share with you. Instead of fighting. And that is the beauty. That is the beauty of the program. That was part of my 6th step, that I have to remove the fear, and my 7th step, that I need to be humble, what I did, that we were a very poor family, that when I came to this country, I was sweeping floors. But for the grace of God, today we have a different life. And I was talking before, I don't know, I don't have any idea about what time I have to finish. Coordinator, chairperson of JAL-CON, can you tell me? How? 50 minutes? 5 minutes? Okay. I am going to say about the amends that I did to my mother. I used to hate her hands. And one day when she came from Argentina, I asked my mother if I can make her a manicure. And she said, you don't know how to do it. And I said, well, try. I need to learn. And when I went and I did her manicure, I massaged her hands, and I was shaking because I still afraid of her hands because of the abuse that I had. And I was asking her, I say, please, can you tell me everything that you did when I was a child? And she started telling me about everything that she did when I was a child. And my road was that I did not resent her anymore. And I know today that my mother and my father did the best that they can with us. And that was very important for me. Today, I have the freedom to not resent anybody. Today, I have the freedom to carry the message, not only in the United States. In the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I went to different countries. I went to Honduras and Guatemala, El Salvador, and Bolivia. And I was the first person from the United States carrying the message over there. And for the grace of God, they are, guided to do service in another level. But before that I close, I want to tell you a story about what happened with me in Bolivia. We have a plan to go 3 days before because La Paz is very high altitude, is 11,000 feet, something like that. And our plan A was to be over there for 2 days and rest. And we have problems with the planes. And I have to fly alone. My daughter flew the next day. But look how is God. I gave my service. Over there, they are going to start with 4 or 5 intergroups in different states. That is what they had. And after that, I gave my service and I went to the airport. I was feeling bad. And I was in the bathroom and I told the lady that was over there, I say, please, can you call a doctor? And when she looked at me, she said, oh, lady, you are turning blue. And I say, blue? Yes. And she said, oh, and she took my hand and she was massaging my hand. I say, oh, you are blue. And I say, yes, I know that I am blue, but please can you go and call the doctor? But it's part of their culture. They talk in that way. Oh, my dear lady. I say, don't worry, I give my own massage. Go and call the doctor. Oh, yeah. I say, do not worry about me. And for the grace of God, she called the doctor, or the police, who cared, and I was turning blue. The doctor came, they gave me oxygen, they put me needles in my arms, in my hand, and all that stuff. For the grace of God, I am here. You see, nothing happened with me. But you are going to say that I am crazy, and you are right. But if I have to do it again, and to carry the message again, I'll do it. These countries are the poorest countries in the world. But the people has so many rich values. And that is what I keep coming back to Al-Anon. And words say that today in Al-Anon, and according to our third tradition, it is not my business who comes to Al-Anon. I don't care about if that person is gay, if it's black, if it's white, or if it's yellow. And we need to think that 85% of the people that comes to Al-Anon are white and Christian. And where is the rest of other human beings? The beauty of Al-Anon is to be together and to have an open heart for everybody without looking at the skin or what they are. And to end, page 122, say, traveling the Alatin way is the best way for me to go, with the steps and tradition as my signpost. I know I am on the right road, going in the right direction, and my destination is recovery. Thank you.